And before I touch on the subject for today, I want to explain a couple of situations that have happened to lead me up to this. Um, I'm doing very quickly, I had an ex that I saw online say his mentor told him his wife was ready. Okay. I got if you all don't know, I do reading. I'm a prophetess, call it what you want. And so I got an inbox from someone I grew up with, and they wanted a reading concerning their marriage. It was a man, wasn't a woman. I recently was dating a man who I can say I love, but he never did the things to make me fall in love with him. And before I stepped into that relationship, I asked him a lot of questions. He also claimed he was ready to receive his wife. And either one or two things, either I wasn't the woman that he felt deserved the effort to see if they could go there, or he was just lying. Anyway, this particular part of the Bible I turned to, which was Corinthians 12, and I like to read a little before and a little after. So I want to read the things that I read that kind of connected and really showed me something. And one thing I want to say is that I have a roommate now. I've never lived with people. I've lived with people on and off, but I've never really solidly jumped into living with somebody. And this is a female, and I'm a straight woman. But I take my lessons on, and this is pretty much boot camp for the fact that I plan on receiving my husband. And you can't ask God for something, which I've asked for, and not prepare your mind, body, soul, your emotions, and your atmosphere to receive it. If you want a new car and you haven't cleaned out your garage, you're going to have a problem. And God's probably holding it up like, until you do that, I'm not going to give it to you. So when you pray for things like a husband or wife, there are so many steps that you may not even know you have to go through mentally, physically, emotionally before you're even ready to take on such a thing. You know, because unlike people do nowadays and just get a divorce and throw people on back, you need to work through some problems. And if you have yet to die to self and really decide that you're going to make something work no matter what, and there is no quitting. And that's the problem, because divorce is so easy. You see billboards, divorce is $225, call it a day. It's like crazy. But we're so quick to jump into marriage and not do the work that we need to. And then our children are suffering, our families are suffering, our communities are suffering. Yes, our communities suffer because we don't have a strong household. And everybody wants to just jump ship as soon as something goes bad. And of course, everybody goes into it figuring if I cheat and he or she finds out, then I can just get a divorce and it's over with. It shouldn't be that easy. But we need to initially go into it with the right head and the right mindset. So I'm going to read to you what I saw. I'm going to read to you what I saw. So if you go with me to Corinthians chapter 11, verse 3. And it says, "But I want you to know that the head of every man is Christ. The head of every woman is man. And that the head of Christ is God." Okay? So what that's saying is that there is woman who looks to man as their head. Man that looks to God, or Jesus, as a head. And Jesus that looks to God as a head. So the trickle down is God, Jesus, man, woman. Alright? Pause right there. So we want to flip over to Corinthians chapter 13, verse 11 again. When I was a child, I spoke as a child. I understood as a child. I thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put away childish things. Skip on down. You're more than welcome to read 12. We'll go to 13. "And now abide faith, hope, love, these three. But the greatest of these is love." Now, if you want to go through chapter 13, if you go to start at verse 3. But if you go to verse 4, that's where the other ones come. This wasn't one I was going to touch on, but I will do it. It says, "Love suffers long and is kind. Love does not envy. Love does not parade itself. It is not puffed up." Okay? "Does not behave rudely, does not speak its own, is not provoked, thinks no evil, does not rejoice in iniquity, but rejoices in truth, bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never fails." Okay? And of course, you're more than welcome just to read all of chapter 13. Gives you ins and outs. I don't like when pastors kind of pick and choose, but I'm just showing you what I saw. So if we initially go in and we talk about the fact that you have a woman, she's supposed to look to a man for guidance, and this is where we talk about being submissive, okay? But men always want a woman to be submissive because you're a man, because you're the husband. But before you ever become the husband, there are steps that you have to go through in order for that woman to look at you and decide that you're worthy enough to be a head of her household. Why are y'all always arguing? I'm telling you maybe just a hint, and fellas, it's not to knock you down, but I need you to get a mindset because I need my men to step up a little bit more because I'm going to have a son or a daughter, and I need her to be surrounded by other people her age with the same type of solid households of a real man and a real woman. All right? So, you being the man, your woman is supposed to look at you for guidance. My household, if my husband tells me to stay home and I got all dressed to go to the club, he needs to be so in tune with God and have had a track record of being truthful, unselfish, loving, and kind, and not using his position to control or manipulate me. And he's proven that before we got married. So if he tells me to stay home from the club, I need to know in my heart that not only will I not question it, but that maybe he had a bad feeling that night. That he's not the type of man to use his power and his position that just made me stay home just because. Because that's not fair and that's not right. But when a man is in tune and looking to Jesus as his leader, as his direction, then Jesus says, you need to tell her to stay home because I feel like I'm going out. Matter of fact, I know I'm going to go down, so you need to tell you why to stay home and protect her like you should as a man. Okay? And as a submissive woman, you take that on. You don't take that on because he's telling you what to do. You take that on because maybe he had a bad feeling that day. Okay? Maybe he didn't have a bad feeling. Maybe that's not why. Maybe he just said it. Maybe someone's put on his heart to just say it, and maybe you did avoid something. Maybe it wasn't just this bad feeling. But fellas, it's more women in church than it is men. I always see a ton of women in church. Period. So you're guided by God. Then your actions should allow for a woman to trust you because you're being trustworthy, because you're led by Jesus. To confide in you because like Jesus, you confide in God. So she should be able to confide in you. You're her friend. She can talk to you. Jesus is your friend. He's showing you how to be. If you don't know how to be, this is a good thing to look at. So all of these things that Jesus is to you and you look to him for guidance, she should be looking to you for. This is a phrase that you probably don't hear in a lot of households anymore. What did your daddy say? That used to be the solid, what your dad say? Final say, what your dad say? All right, we'll go with that. Now, women, we don't ever want to take away from the fact that men as well, you need to consult your mate because that's your mate. Okay, but when we talk about submissivity, I don't even know if that's a word, but I like it. You have to prove that you are man enough for her to follow. In your actions, in your words, in the way you live your life, and how you treat her. You want a real woman to follow you, you need to make sure all of those things are straight. Now, you're not perfect. You're not going to always get it right. But if you built up the trust, if you show her, I got a bad feeling, maybe we shouldn't go down that road, you turn on the news that night, and it was something happening down that road, then you're showing that connection that you have to God. So she's not necessarily following you. She's more so following, ultimately, God, because that trickle, that level, that pyramid goes up to God. You understand what I'm saying? So, while I respect the man for calling me for a reading, my question would be, are you being led by God or Jesus? Are you doing the things within your household and in your marriage that a woman will have nothing else to do but respect it and honor you? I'm feeling something. Anyway, I really wanted to lay that down because, fellas, you are wondering why, and here's another submissive to God, then your actions should not even allow you to date the type of woman that would cheat on you. Now, don't get me wrong, things happen. But when you really look for somebody that is to be a wife, and you trying to make that hubby that you met at the club in a short skirt with a crack showing a wife and the mother of your child, you're not in tune with God, because there are specific things that you should be looking for that are in there, so that you're not taking on a woman to start a family with and it's going to fall apart because she's still in the club with more than a crack showing it to other people after the club is over, and not bringing herself home, taking care of home. So fellas, I'm going to start with you, because I talk to Jesus, talk to God, I talk to my sisters, but it has to start with you. You want to take a wife, you have to start by making sure your actions are aligned with the actions of God. God would not decide to be verbally abusive to a woman and expect her to let you leave the household. God provides for you. You need to provide for a woman. I'm going to pause right there because I feel like people think I'm only going to stop right there. My women. God doesn't hit you. He doesn't abuse you. So the trinkle, we're going to skip right up to God. Before your husband can come, are you already married to God and how he treats you? God has sent me out the house with no money and taken care of my whole day. You can think whatever you want. I'm not going to explain it, but when I asked him, can I go, he said, go here and I'll take care of it. And that's exactly what he did. So the thing that I look for is a man that can take care of it. God has provided me with a roof over my head for as long as I was diligent in my work and did my part. I expect a man to do the same. God has always loved me unconditionally, even when I was dead wrong. And I expect a man to do the same. God has even, and don't take this the wrong way, people, but he's even sent me money when I needed it to take care of me and love on me because I needed it and because I was acting right and because I asked. But he knows I don't ask unless I really, really am in need of it. I work hard on a regular basis, so I'm really not asking. But if I do, he has provided, and I trust him, and he loves on me. So while you're dealing with these men, God doesn't verbally abuse you and call you a bitch. God doesn't beat on you. God does not call you late at night. Sometimes he does. Let me take that back. He's not going to call you over for a booty call. He's not. And I'm going to say this, y'all. I'm not perfect. By any means, I'm not a virgin. I'm not an angel. If I was, I wouldn't be on this earth. I'm not. I'm absolutely not perfect. But my New Year's resolution was to start to fall back in love with God, because I know he's there. I know he loves me. I love him too. But to make sure he's the head of my household, make sure I'm in love with him first and foremost, so that I can recognize what a real man would be like. And people always ask me, why do I have, such high standards? Or why can't I? I'm the daughter of a king. Why shouldn't I have high standards? So if this man who's guided by God is looking for this woman who's guided by God, and they get together and have a family, whew, I'm excited. Because I'm not going to settle. I'm not. If that means that I'm going to end up adopting kids and teaching them and making sure that they have a chance, I don't want them to see their mother in a relationship where somebody's verbally abusing me, or because I just wanted to have kids. My clock is ticking louder than this clock on the wall, but I'm going to wait, and I'm going to do it the right way, and I'm going to do it with somebody that's actually going to do it with me. And if you already went into it and you already have some kids and maybe you're divorced, that doesn't mean it's too late. But you have to get in tune with who you need to be, and that person needs to initially be ran by God, so that when you meet that man, you recognize greatness. When you meet that woman, you recognize greatness. So that you two are on the same page, about where you're going and what you're doing. And especially when it comes down to the kids. That's a whole nother subject itself. But those two things really got me. Because, especially if you go back to Corinthians, when I was a child, I spoke as a child. I understood as a child. I thought as a child. But when I became a man, and a lot of you brothers out there want to use, I'm not just saying brothers as black men, period. You men want to use the word man, but you're not acting like a grown man. You're not taking on the real responsibility of a grown man, but you want them respectable. You want your woman to do what you say, but you won't act like a grown man. And ladies, I'm going to say this as well, because we could just put woman in a place and it could be the same thing. Some of y'all need to grow up. And I'm not perfect. I can put a mirror right in front of me and have the same talk because there's still things that I need to achieve. But I'm not begging my parents for money. I'm self-sufficient. I put myself through school. I have yet to have a child because I am not married, which is the right answer to why I don't have kids. But you can't expect someone to give you respect when you're not acting like a grown man. You don't have your life set up like a grown man would. You live with your mama, or you're not handling the responsibilities of the things that you were already given by God. God woke me up out of my sleep one day and said, you're asking me for kids, but you're not taking care of them dogs like you're supposed to. You have to ask God for something and then appreciate what you already have, in addition to making room for the new. And now we'll buy faith, hope, love, these three. But the greatest of these is love. At the end of the day, we got to get back to marriage or divorce is not an option. And you say that, or you hear that, and it's so scary. But if we would just take care of ourselves and tune ourselves with God first, wait for Him to present your mate. Do your due diligence and your research on your mate first before you jump into it. Or decide, Kiki got a big old booty, you just got to tap that. Or I felt it and it was big and I just want some. And it has to be much more than that. You're expecting to marry a man that's telling you flat to your face, I don't want kids, and if my ex-wife called tomorrow, I'm out. But you falling in love with him, hoping he gonna give you a baby. Don't make no sense. Or she telling you I don't cook, clean, all I do is shop because that's what I can do right now because I'm not responsible for any other person but me. But you looking at this woman to change her mind because if you just do it right, she gonna want to have your baby. Use a dummy. I can go on and on, but the one thing I do know to be true is when I look at the time on that camera, it goes to about a good 20 minutes. So I just want you to take a look at this if you all get a chance. Again, it was Corinthians chapter 11, verse 3. And it was also Corinthians chapter 13, verses 11 and 13. And of course, there's, much more in the middle of all of that. And you're more than welcome to read it. Even if you take it up to chapter 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Love is something that we are just getting away from. But we say it and we don't mean it. We say it and we don't know the work behind it. We want our husbands and our wives, but we're not ready to die to self and really learn how to be or let someone else in our lives. And then the second it don't feel right, it's such an uncomfortable change. I can admit to that. Because I never had to, in my adult life, adjust to anybody. And that's the lesson that I'm learning having a roommate now. It's just adjusting and being selfless and doing extra things to make the other person happy that wouldn't affect your world if you never change it. But it's because of them. It's because of the love you have for them that you're willing to make the changes. It's having the conversations. It's doing something ahead of time. It's being caring and loving and doing the work that would make it that if we go through a tough time, at the end of the day, you're the only person that I would want to go through it with. And one thing I will say, one great thing, my godmother, bless her soul, Sarah, I love you. She said her husband going through it. She left him for a little bit and went back to him. We, in my younger 20s, looked and she said, you know, she was going back to him and we didn't get it. A bunch of babies, we didn't get it. she said, if I have to argue with anybody else for the rest of my life, I want it to be him. You have to also go into it knowing that you will be arguing with somebody for the rest of your life. And not on a toe-to-toe regular 24-hour basis, but you will run into problems, and you need to pick the person that is best suited to go through those wars with you. And even at times up against you. So, that is it. You all be blessed. The next